expressed on this program are not necessarily those of Mercer University or WMUB. Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the Middle Georgia Spotlight. I'm your host, Jack Ellis. Thanks so much for joining us. The program is made possible by Caduceus Medicine and J. Franklin Automotives. Hello, everybody, and welcome to yet another edition of the Middle Georgia Spotlight. I'm your host, Jack Ellis. Joining us today in the Spotlight is the president of Mercer University, Mr. Bill Underwood. And he was here at the beginning of this COVID, and he's back again to bring us up to date as what's going on not only in Mercer, but throughout the community. Welcome back to our program, sir.
Thank you. I'm glad I'm still here.
Well, you're not only here, but you're looking good. But when you were on this program, it was 3 months ago, and I looked at it the other day. It's on YouTube, and people can watch it all over the world. And I will ask you all to please subscribe to us on YouTube, like us on YouTube, and subscribe to us on YouTube, and share it. And share YouTube. We're all over the world. You're on just the Middle Georgia Spotlight with C. Jack Ellis. But one thing that you mentioned that you were afraid of, it was almost like at the end of the show, I asked you what kept you up at night and what were you fearful of? And you say you cared about the young people of this community, not at Mercer, but in the public school system. You were thinking about the small businesses that would probably have suffered and several other things, and they've all come to pass. So people are going to say you're a soothsayer or you just knew innately this would happen.
Well, I don't think it took any special prognostication skills to see that it was going to be a difficult situation for children in our K through 12 school system. Asking a lot of those young people to transition to a virtual learning environment is a pretty challenging thing. A lot of these young people have parents who have to work during the day, and as a result, they're not going to have the supervision that's necessary to create a really good learning environment. Many of them have brothers and sisters who are creating a ruckus at home, like my siblings did when I was a kid. That's a difficult learning environment. And some of them don't even have access to the kind of technology required. So you put all that together, and it's challenging. And I have tremendous empathy for our outstanding superintendent of schools because he understands this. And he wants to create a safe environment for people to study, but he also takes very seriously the responsibility of seeing that these young kids get the kind of education that's required for them to have a future. And missing a semester or a year and a half or whatever of school is going to be tragic if it occurs. So I don't think it required any special prognostication to be worried about those scenarios, and I know he probably is staying awake at night worrying about them. And I hope that we can get these kids back into school as soon as possible.
Well, before we get into Mercer and what you are doing your way forward now, you also wear another hat as the chairman of the Newtown Macon. You're still in that position.
I am,
chairman
yes.
of Newtown Macon. And you spoke of small businesses. You were fearful what was going to happen with small business. What are you all doing? What has Newtown done? What have you put in place? I know the chamber's doing small business, some things. What are you all doing to kind of undergird, if you will, the small businesses from just all leaving the place, if you will?
Well, a lot of work's been invested in creating a positive small business environment downtown, including a small business environment especially for diverse communities. There's a small business loan fund that was created with an endowment from my predecessor, Kirby Godsey, that's designed to provide financial support for people who are starting small businesses downtown. And I know that Newtown Macon is continuing to work with all of those small businesses. We're advising them how to access federal support money that's available to small businesses We're working with them on their loans to make sure that the inability to repay a loan during these circumstances doesn't knock them out of business, and really a lot of day-to-day triage by Josh Rogers and the other folks involved in Newtown, Macon, trying to help these folks, many of whom their small business is their life's dream, and helping them work through these difficult circumstances and stay viable until things rebound.
Well, let's talk about your day job, and that is running this prestigious university with several campuses all over the state. You get ready to reopen. We're in the cusp of school open. Tell us what you've done, what preparation, what people can expect going forward, students, the community, faculty, and the whole bit.
Well, we've been actually open. Our second summer session, we had live classes on campus, which was a great opportunity to see firsthand whether the protocols that we've put in place are effective. And fortunately, we learned that they are. Universal masking. Studies show that if we'll wear masks, as I'm doing today, we're sitting far enough apart that you're good. But if everyone will wear masks, that's one of the most important things we can do. In fact, I've talked to infectious disease experts that tell me that if everyone in this community will discipline themselves to wear masks when they're around other folks, just for a few weeks, we can make a dramatic difference in the experience of people in this community. So I would certainly encourage everyone who's watching your program, put on a mask. It's not a difficult thing to do. I don't like it, but I'm doing it. And my wife tells me I look so much better. She tells me I should have put this
without
thing
the
on
mask.
No, she tells me I should have put this thing on 40 years ago. But that's an important thing. If all of our students and their professors will wear masks in class, that goes a long way towards eliminating the danger, creating distance. You and I are sitting 5 or 6 feet apart. That's helpful.
7 feet, they told me.
Is that right? Well, that's helpful, and creating as much distance as the circumstances will allow. 3 feet's better than 3 inches. 6 feet's better than 3 feet. 9 feet's better than 6 feet. 90 feet's better than 9 feet. But creating as much distance as your circumstances will allow is very helpful. Careful sanitation. We've got sanitation stations everywhere on campus. You can't walk 10 feet without coming across a sanitation station. And we want people to keep their hands clean so that when they touch their face, they're not transmitting a virus to their eyes or their nose or their mouth. So ubiquitous sanitation stations on campus. Testing. We have our own testing capacity at Mercer. We can administer tests all day long, and we've built our own test processing facility on campus that can process approximately 1,000 tests every 8-hour shift. And so I will say that's available to people in Macon by contacting Mercer Medicine. We can test you, and we can get you results quickly.
What is quickly? 24 hours, 48 hours?
Within 1 to 2 business days, depending on the time of day you get your test. If you get it in the morning, we can usually have you the result the next day.
Oh, great.
If you get it in the afternoon, it usually takes until the day after the next day, but within 1 or 2 business days. And we want people to take advantage of it. I think accessing testing is a very valuable thing. And all of our undergraduate students, as they come back to campus, as they are coming back, as they are now, we're testing them when they arrive to establish a baseline. Where are we coming in? And then throughout the semester, if you have any symptoms, we'll be able to immediately test you and isolate you until we have the results, and then get you the results. And then if you're positive, talk to people who have had in contact with you and test them as well. So the testing procedures we have in place is important, and I think that's important throughout the community. I would encourage you, if you're having the symptoms, go ahead and get yourself tested. Odds are you'll be negative, but get yourself tested, because if you are positive, you can inform the people around you and help protect the people around you. So masking, sanitation, keeping our distance, testing when we're feeling symptoms, you put that together, and that's a pretty effective plan for keeping people safe. We're also doing some special food sanitation procedures in our dining facilities, and extra cleaning procedures in our campus facilities as well.
Now, the testing, that's good news. I wasn't aware of that, because all I was aware of, I had Representative Beverly on a couple weeks ago, and I know we had a testing site up the CVS, all the way up at the state was
Right.
partnering with them. But the thing about it, they put it at Bass Road,
Yeah.
CVS, where most of the people live in the center city. So it's good to know that this is available downtown at Mercer
At Mercer Medicine, just call Mercer Medicine and schedule a test.
Accessible public transportation, so that's very
Yeah.
good news. Now, going back in now, so will there be an option of online virtual learning for some students, or everyone has to be on campus now?
We've had students ask for that, but it's not as easy as just flipping a switch. To do a quality online class, you got to have a professor focused on teaching an online class. And I can't ask professors to teach in person and then also teach online. So that's part of the reason why we're not providing a complete duplicate curriculum online. The other reason is that we believe in an experiential education. It's hard to do experiments in a laboratory online. It's hard to do research in an engineering lab online. It's hard to fit prosthetics on landmine victims in Vietnam online. It's hard to develop technology to protect gold miners in South America from mercury poisoning online. It's hard to install technology designed to deliver clean water to people in mountainous regions of the Dominican Republic online. In fact, it's hard to do most of what we're known for online, and it's important to us that our students have that opportunity.
Now, did you, the Mercer on a Mission, that's the program you talked about, doing work in Vietnam, Dominican Republic, and Africa, and other parts of the world. Is that ongoing now? I guess because of the travel, it's probably been restricted somewhat, I would guess, that project.
It is ongoing. We've had to move the trips that were scheduled for this summer to during Christmas break this year. But the work continues, the research continues, the planning continues. That's just an important part of who we are, Mr. Mayor.
Now what about athletics? Yesterday, one of the premier coaches at one of the schools here in the city suggested to the local school system just cancel this season altogether. That let's forget about this season. Where do you come down on? You got a football season, a very fine program, in its infancy somewhat. Been 5-6 years, I guess, it's been around, but in the scheme of things, in its infancy. Where do you come down on having fall athletics as well as basketball and so forth?
Well, we're studying that still.
So football is still up in the air, we don't know.
That's right. We
Okay.
don't, I mean, our conference has not made a decision.
Okay.
As you know, the Southeast Conference has decided they're going to play 10 games this season. The Atlantic Coast Conference has decided they're going to play 11 games this season. Some of the other major conferences have made similar decisions. I believe the Sun Belt Conference has announced they're going to play a full 12-game football season. The Southern Conference presidents will be meeting in the coming days and making a decision as to what our conference will do. The highest priority is, of course, the health and welfare of the student athletes, the young men and young women who compete. When I talk to them and I ask them what their biggest fear is, so far what they're telling me is their biggest fear is some old white guy telling them they can't play. So I guess what I'm saying is I know that a lot of these student athletes have grown up dreaming of competing in these sports.
Yeah.
Taking that away from them is not something that I intend to do lightly.
Yeah. Especially you have we are going to claim him too, a star baseball player playing for the Seattle Mariners.
I hope you claim him. I've seen you out there rooting for the Bears in baseball. Yeah, Kyle Lewis, who's finished last season on a tremendous run for Seattle. I think he homered in his first 3 or 4 games in the big leagues and began this season homering in the first 2 games of the season and is one of the top 5 hitters in the American League so far this year. Former college baseball player of the year as a junior at Mercer. So I'm enjoying watching that.
So what you were saying, basically, that young man, had it not had that season, could have very well not gotten this opportunity to.
Well, he's certainly an illustration of somebody that dreamed of being a great athlete one day and has made good on that dream. But you want them to be safe. You want to provide a safe environment for them to pursue their dreams. And if we can do that, then I'm committed to doing that.
Well, great. Well, one thing that happened, Mr. President, during this time, you tweeted out, I follow you on Twitter, you tweeted out the game between Duke and Mercer, and I was out of the country when that game was played, so I got a chance to watch it in its entirety.
Did you? Good.
Yeah, I did. So we appreciate that. But let's get back to, I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the things that have been going on in our community, less so in our community, but in our nation, in terms of Black Lives Matter, in terms of criminal social justice, and so forth. Just before, matter of fact, it was the last day that when we taped, it was 4 months ago, 3 or 4, at the beginning of this, you had given the order of someone to cover a mural that was on the side of the building. A lot of people thought it was in response to some of the negative things that you didn't want to have anything be associated with. I disagree, and I tried to tell them that's not the case. That was never meant to stay there. But explain to the community that they were not connected, that you were not trying to hide anything.
Well, obviously that was before some of the terrible circumstances that have led to where we are in terms of people demanding racial justice in America. I authorized the mural to be put up several years ago, and it was part of what was explained to me as a temporary art in the park exhibit. The mural, and then there were a number of other exhibits as part of this temporary art in the park exhibit. The materials that were submitted to me said it was going to be up for 11 months. I said, fine, that's good. I left it up for 2.5 years, so
there's no connection whatsoever.
No, it was never intended to be there, even as long as it was. I think that if some of our students and a local artist want to put up another mural, that'll be fine with me, as long as they understand theirs can't stay forever either.
Well, that's good to know, that at least they know that the space is still available on a limited time, that will be there. And
I don't want to give one voice exclusive possession of it.
So, well,
it's probably a dumb thing for me to do in the first place.
Well,
but
you've made some pretty good decisions, Mr. President, since you've been here, so we follow your lead on a lot of things. One thing that you mentioned, and I said at that time, and I say now, how you avoid politics, but you said that I mentioned about the governor and not giving specific orders, and you said follow the science. That would be your advice, that you wouldn't advise, you would just advise people to follow the experts, the science. Would you now, with your position on masking, and on the university, that you have a campus in Atlanta, Savannah, Augusta, wherever, and would you say to the governor, if he would ask you, would you say to him, hey, Governor, I think it's time that we all mask up here?
Well, first of all, he's not going to ask me. And secondly, I haven't had a discussion with him, so I don't know why he has not mandated masking. I know in the one place where I have some authority, which is on our campuses, I have mandated masking, which I think is the right thing on our campuses. What I've told people on Mercer campuses is that they're required to wear a mask unless they're sitting in their office by themselves, where a mask isn't going to make any difference, or if they're out in the open air by themselves, they don't need to wear a mask. But otherwise, masks are mandatory on our campus until we get this behind us.
So, let's be clear here. You have total authority on your campus, whereas mayors don't have total authority in their cities, but you have total authority on your campus. You can give that order, and the governor can't challenge it. He can't sue you like he's trying to sue the city of Atlanta, that you have total authority to enforce to give an instruction to wear a mask and to enforce wearing a mask.
Nobody would ever say any college president has total authority of anything. But I do have the authority to require people to wear masks on campus.
That's right.
And I am requiring people to wear masks on campus.
And it's common sense. I think it makes sense. So that's.
And I'm glad we've delivered a Mercer mask to you. Why don't you put that thing
I would
on
like
so
to.
people
I
can
want
see
to put it on. I want to see
I want you to be a good example for our community.
I saw you one on TV with it, and let me see, the teeth is like that. This is bare. And so, and I'm a proud, as I said, my father retired from Mercer as a groundskeeper and a custodian, so I'm representing him here as well as all the other Mercerians all over the world. That's pretty nice, too.
It looks good.
It looks good.
That's going to look good on that flight that you're taking.
Thank you so much, and I'm going to just sit here and wear it the rest of the way and mouth it. So, Mr. President, going forward, you saw the all of these not bad things, but the consequences of it. You saw children going to suffer. You saw business. You said you were afraid business would do, and you were afraid other things. Going forward now, we still don't have a vaccine.
Right.
I don't know how far away we are. So how do we maneuver through this? You gave what you're doing on campus and so forth, but these children will go downtown and they will mingle with other, I say the children, the students, and they'll come back. So how do we move through this as a community, as a country, as a city, and so forth?
Well, I don't think we can just sit around and wait for some magic bullet to come along. I'm hoping there will be an effective vaccine as soon as possible, but I don't know when that's going to be. And anybody who tells you they know when it's going to be is speculating. We don't know. There are some clinical trials that are having encouraging results, but we don't know when we're going to have a vaccine. We don't know how quickly we can get the vaccine out to people. We don't know how effective any vaccine will be. So I think what many of us have to do is figure out how we go about moving forward as people in the meantime. Mm-hmm. I think there are simple precautions that we can take that can enable us to move forward. And I think one of the jobs that people in leadership, respected leaders like yourself have, is trying to educate people as to what's required to move forward in effective and safe ways with their lives. One of my tasks at Mercer is to create a culture where the students and the faculty and the staff are working and studying and recreating and playing in a way that's safe. And that's one of the things that we're working so hard for this fall, is to say, here are ways that we can move forward with the kind of educational experience that our university is known for, and do it in a way where we're keeping people as safe as they can be. We are not deluding ourselves into believing that there will not be coronavirus cases on campus. There will be, there are.
That's what we keep them to a minimum at all times.
We're trying to educate people so we can keep it to a minimum. There are cases all around us. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do is educate people to keep it to a minimum.
Now, you have a medical school. You have professionals in that field, infectious disease specialists and so forth. We have an election coming up in this town. Some people have been clamoring for mail. We know what the president is saying about the nation, but we're talking locally, mail-in ballots. If someone would ask you, and I'm sure you refer to your specialist, if someone would say, if the voting people come and say, advise us how we should conduct this election, would you be inclined to have your infectious disease, especially because you all of this, you do research, you on this thing, to tell us, hey, this is what you ought to be doing? I mean, locally, not going against what the governor says, but if we're going to contain, because this is a localized thing, we have to, hot spots pop up here, and we have to be able to take care of. What would be your advice? What would be your?
No, I think it is wise to consult with infectious disease experts. That doesn't mean that they make your decision for you, but the advice that you receive from these folks is certainly part of your decision-making process. And I think we want people to be able to vote, and we want people to be able to vote safely. I don't think there's anything controversial about that. And I think whatever mechanisms that we can develop that will enable people to exercise perhaps the most important right of citizenship. You know, the right that we were reminded recently of John Lewis's role in securing for us. We want people to be able to exercise that right and be able to exercise it safely. And I think the infectious disease people can be helpful for us in crafting plans to do that.
Well, great. We need to, as you said before, listen to the experts, listen to those who know, should know, and probably do know. Mr. President, we got about a minute left. Now, if anything that you need to cover that we haven't mentioned here, please feel free to do so. But I read the papers and see what different universities are doing. Some people going fall, then they're going to break it, not going to have winter or whatever. Are you, right now, you on schedule to, when you start, to go straight through? Is that what?
We are. We have adjusted our schedule to eliminate fall break because...
No fall break.
No fall break, because one of the things that we've seen in the data is the more back and forth activity we have, the more risk we have. We're also going to complete the semester right before Thanksgiving instead of having students come back after Thanksgiving, and we'll allow them to take their final exams online so they don't have to travel back to campus. They can if they choose. The campus will be open. Some students prefer to come back so they can study because they feel like they don't have a great study environment at home, but we will enable them to take their final exams after Thanksgiving break online. The idea is their presence will not be required here after Thanksgiving.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. We're about out of time, but one of the most important things, Coach, you said a lot of important things here for me, and I'm getting ready to travel. I've got to take a test, and I was wondering where I was going to get my, I have to have it, it has to be 72 hours, when I land, it has to be 72 hours prior
before
to
you take off, yeah.
Yes.
Well, why don't you call Mercer Medicine, and they'll set you up for a test, and they'll get you a prompt result.
And I'll tell them the
1 to 2 business days, and tell them you talked to me, and
tell them the
I
president
promised.
told me.
Yeah.
Well, Sir, I want to thank you so much, and you for your attitude through this. You've been a great inspiration to us all, setting good examples. We see you on TV wearing your mask, doing commercials, and we think that's very commendable. And I wish you very much success this school year. Hopefully you don't have too many, hope have no fatalities and very few sickness at Mercer University as you move forward.
Well, thank you, and thank you for all you're doing, Mr.
Thank
Mayor.
you, sir. Thank you. We've been speaking with Bill Underwood, who is the president of Mercer University. He has several campuses throughout the state, but the main one here in Macon, Georgia. They are going to be going back to school. Kids are going to be learning. Hopefully we'll see some football. Be safe. Until next week, I'm your host, Jack Ellis. Goodbye.